Always believe more than expected is the vision of E-Cell VSIT. Good morning to one and all present here. I am Nehashree Hebbar, a member of E-Cell at VSIT. As E-Cell has started a podcast series of young entrepreneurs to share their untold stories to future generations of younger entrepreneurs to help them achieve their goals. So, I cordially take this opportunity to welcome all of you to the first podcast of this academic year, Dreamers of Today, Achievers of Tomorrow, episode number 1. I would like to extend an extra warm welcome to our today's guest, Mr. Sachin Kumbhoje. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I hope you're feeling excited to share your insights to the budding minds of
Yes,
our college.
yes. Now I'm more excited because this is the first episode, and along with excitement, I even carry that responsibility as well. So, extremely, excited to be here on this podcast.
Great, sir. A brief introduction about Mr. Kumbhoje. Currently, Mr. Kumbhoje is an entrepreneur, a startup coach, a public speaker, along with being an author of 2 books. Sir has also recently batched number 1 at India Croatia Startup Challenge 2022. Sir, my first question to you is how and when did your startup journey begin? How has it been like?
Yeah, sure. Now, first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for having me here. And I see all these, students from Mumbai and nearby territory are here. Uh, Now, see, whenever I consider my entire entrepreneurship journey, Neha, am I audible?
Yes, sir,
Yes,
you're
sir,
audible.
you're audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So whenever I consider my entrepreneurship journey, I consider myself as an like accidental entrepreneur. I didn't had any kind of wish or dream to become an entrepreneur. So that is something had happened accidentally. So that was in 2016, and certainly what happens is uh, when you work for any organization, when you are an employee of any organization, and when you leave any job, at that particular time, you have a backup plan, or what we call as plan B. But in my first job, when I actually wanted to resign from that particular job, I didn't had any kind of backup plan. So that was certainly my own experience where I had that biggest risk, that knowing that I didn't have any kind of option, or I was absolutely clueless. That time I decided, I went there to my boss and I simply resigned. So that was something where I didn't knew, like, I have to someday I have to start my own career and something like that. But in 2016, I was a part of Infosys Global Business and Business Foundation Skills Program at Mysuru. And that, those 10 days of Infosys Mysuru campus changed my entire life. And that was the time period where I actually got to know what exactly my passion is. And then I started my own company, Opex, in 2016. So this is how I, consider as an accidental entrepreneur.
So that's wonderful
That's one of
story,
the
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, uh, so as you said, in the 10 days of Infosys challenge, did you have any other idea before that that you might, maybe you could think of having a startup through this and maybe Infosys challenge helped you in the
No,
startup?
no, no, no. See, actually, what happened was I graduated in 2008, and I was there at Infosys for one training program, not for any competition or challenge. It was a training program. It was in 2016. So you see, it took me 8 long years to understand, to become clueless about our own career, and to understand what exactly my passion is, what exactly I like to do. Because I switched to certain jobs and something like that, but it took me 8 long years to understand what exactly I want to do. During this Infosys training program, 10 days training program, before that training program, as I said, I was clueless. But in those 10 days, I could actually realize that yes, this is something I wish to become. This was a training program, this was a train the trainer program. I actually wanted to be a certified trainer. I actually wanted to train and skill more number of students and youngsters, so that particular spark, as well as the understanding of a business foundation or a business development, that I received from Infosys campus. How this is how it was the entire experience during those 10 days. The kind of mentors and trainers which I had during those 10 days, that is something even today I praise, even today I thank them, that because of you, I could see myself in other role which I personally like.
So, you said that you had mentioned that you have your own startup right now. Can you please tell us more about your startup Opex that you mentioned before?
Yeah, sure, sure. So, 2016, when I started Opex, Opex is basically it's operational excellence. It is one of the Japanese word, like how you have Kaizen, the Toyota way. Similarly, Opex is basically a Japanese word, which basically describes operational excellence. So that was basically, I, always have that influence from Japanese techniques and technologies and the people, the ikigai and everything, and that's the reason I actually termed that particular name as a Opex. So when I started this, the first of all, the gap which I have identified, every time when you work for any startup, or when you start your own startup, your responsibility is to understand the problems of the society, the problems of the people, and with your own expertise you have to actually solve those problems. The problem which I have seen was, there were tons of jobs in the market, but students, maybe engineering, maybe management, pharmacy, architecture, they were not prepared for these jobs. So that particular industry readiness, that particular employability gap was the problem which I identified. So the only solution to train and upskill these students and graduates is to make them aware about what exactly is happening in the market. And that's how we are into that transition of industry 4.0, fourth industrial revolution. And students, rather, the syllabus which students are every day, every other day, what our university and institution, the kind of syllabus they have, that is something which is becoming outdated. So just by integrating industry experts and some top notch entrepreneurs and these people, we started creating some of the content which is related with skill development training. And then we started with 2016 with this skill development programs. By 2020 we could reach and impact more than 1 lakh students across India, so that we can we already skilled them so that they can be ready for the market.
Okay, that is very good. As a student, I can appreciate that even right now. There are times where you get so confused. What exactly are you supposed to do? Every
Right,
day you have that crisis like, okay, what after my studies? Am I going to get a job? How is
right,
the market like? It's really,
right.
it is really an actual problem, and it's
Right,
really good of you to have a startup that's helpful for students along.
right, exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
there aren't, you see, there aren't many markets that are focused to students. It's always
Yes,
professionals and their how their career can get better. It's never from the start. From the start, you always have to do things on your own, and then
yes,
later on, they'll help you if they
yes,
do.
yes.
So
Right, right,
that's
certainly.
actually very good. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that you have done your post graduation as well
Yes, yes, twice.
twice. Could you tell
One
more
was
about how
uh,
that was?
first post graduation was like something like uh, when I had my graduation, during through my campus interview I got, see, that was something which happened very fortunate. In the first attempt only I could crack that first job interview of mine, and I could get a job into sales and marketing. I was really happy in sales and marketing, and the salary which they offered somewhere around 7,000 rupees, even I was happy. So 7,000 was like like
Bigger.
20 years before, and I was happy. But when I mentioned this sales and marketing wala job to my parents and my family members, they were like, their reaction was like, Kapoor Saab kya kahenge. You can imagine that scene of Three Idiots. Kapoor Saab kya kahenge, and you have to have this post graduation. And then I actually dropped that idea to get into sales and marketing. And because of your family relatives and every other stuff, I had to had my post graduation, that was in MPharm in pharmaceutical chemistry. So I chosen a specialization that was in pharmaceutical chemistry, uh, for in the subject which I hated the most. So that was something which, do saal ka vanvas that I actually experienced during my post graduation. And in 2015, then I completed my MBA. So MBA was actually my choice, but MPharm in chemistry was because of my family, relatives, and all those things.
When you tell them about your startup that's pretty successful right now, do you hear them still say things like you should have continued in the pharmaceutical industry, or are they now satisfied?
Now, when I started in 2016, uh, parents and the reaction, like the only son of parents, who went for his first job, which was a US based pharma company. He left that job, he left that salary and package, and now he's back to home sitting idle. Kuch kamata nahi hai, he's just idle. And when you tell them ki mere ko abhi startup karna hai, so their reaction, you cannot judge their reaction.
Right.
Okay, so that was during initial time point. But now, right now, they are happy, they are more than happy. And now, they don't talk about salary and package. It is beyond that. Okay,
Right.
even I still remember, uh, when I, along with my wife, when I actually, we both started talking with my in-law, my father-in-law. When I first told him, like, we are doing something like a startup. I still remember, for the next 2.5 months, he was not talking to us, both of us, and he was very angry on us. So that is something, at initial life, initial journey of your startup, you have to experience such kind of dramas from your family members.
To
But you have to be a consistent player during that early phase. That's
I'm
very important.
I'm sure after that they're now happy and content. Everyone
Yes,
in the
yes.
family now.
I hope.
Do you share your startup stories with your family, the students and all that? If you tell them stories about your students becoming successful and better in their life after coaching, getting coached by you, do they feel happy?
Yes, yes, yes. They feel happy. Certainly, when I interact with the students, I don't, directly tell them that live about this job, live about this, aspirations to have a big package and everything. Because see, every student is a special one. Okay, every student, he cannot go ahead and start a job and start a business or a startup. They have their own passion about the things. Maybe some students, they will become some freelancer content creators, someone will join the companies like Tata and Wipro, and they will be happy in their own job. But my advice to these students, whenever I interact with the students, is make sure you have that complete clarity, understand what exactly happening in the market, and based on that, you have to have better clarity at earlier stage, so that you can design your career, so that you can design your own life. Because I have seen candidates, students, even final students, they are absolutely clueless. maa baap ne bheja hai, that's the reason I'm here. They are looking after my pocket money and fees and everything. They are absolutely clueless. So my advice to these students is, you need to have that kind of clarity as far as your entire career is concerned.
Right. When do you think is a proper time for having a startup? Do you think someone very young can also have a successful startup, or do you have to wait for, say, MBA or something like that to have a startup? Do you think is there any barrier?
Yes,
Because
yes.
I believe I'm
Mhm.
sure a lot of kids around my age think we're too young for this. Maybe, taking parents' money or whatever. I'm sure there are students who might think having a successful startup at such a young age is not possible. Do you agree with that?
See, as far as if you ask me timing, my answer would be ASAP. As soon as possible, you have to start a startup, right? See, my advice, or my from my own experience, would be like, start early, fail early. Because if you are starting a startup, you are going to fail, And if you're not going to fail, or if you're not failing in the journey of a startup, something fishy is going to happen. Something big mistake is going to happen. So start early, fail early. Because see, when you are, where when you are into, in a bachelorette phase, you don't have those, responsibilities and family responsibilities. Like, and that's the reason 20 to 26 is the age where you have to, try something else. Maybe one startup idea, two startup ideas, whatever you want, just explore those ideas. Because once you are married, then you are done, right? That is, something like, you will have your responsibilities, you will not take that kind of risk in your life. And that's the reason 20 to 26 is the time point where that is something where you are absolutely ready to experience the failure, right? So that is something which can be happened. Now on this note, I'll be, actually want to give you an example, because you guys are right now in Mumbai. And my example for you is Arjun Deshpande. I guess you might have heard of his name, Arjun Deshpande, who started his startup Generic Aadhaar when he was at the age of 16. So that is
Okay.
something. Even Tilak Mehta, he have started in when he was 13, right? So these are some of the, inspirational stories which you can, consider to begin with.
So, if you think 20 to 26 is the ideal time to experiment with your life in every aspect, career and all the things
Yes,
alike.
yes, yes, yes. Actually,
Okay. So my next question is, you did work in the office for a while. Do you think working in the office convinced you that having a startup is better than being in an office, having a job that's fixed?
when I still remember when I was working at Goa, when we used to have all those 9 to 6 wala thing. Even I didn't know about the term startup, right? So startup was not fascinating or trending word that time. And business, even, see, I basically come from a typical Marathi medium, or Marathi family. We all are mango people, we are arm people. And being a first generation entrepreneur, we didn't had any clue about business. So that was not the time where I was actually thinking of business. I told you, like, even during those days I was clueless. I only knew was whatever I'm doing in 9 to 6, this is not my cup of tea. This is, I'm not enjoying whatever I'm doing.
Well, that is true. I'm sure people who have startup in their mind often think that the main reason they would choose to have a startup is to not have the term sluggish 9 to 5 job. So
Right.
that's also a big reason people choose to have
Yes,
startup.
yes, yes. As a result of their frustration.
Yes, I expected a lot of startup people to have that as their reason because they don't want to be they want to be their own boss or they don't want to be under some boss.
Right,
Mostly
right,
those
right.
are the
Actually,
reasons.
actually, because see, when I actually started first Opex, that was not like, you have to get into a startup wala thing, and that is something was there. But I, even today, I thank COVID-19 and this entire pandemic, when even all our operations were stuck down. But because of COVID, along with Opex, I could start my second one. I could start my third and fourth startup as well. So when I look back, in the last 6 years, I could start my total four startups. And initial 8 years of my career were, completely miserable. So I
Right.
consider, the moment I realized that yes, this is something which I like, this is something which my own passion, then I started this one, two, three, and four. And I don't know how many are going to fail, how many are going to success. I don't know.
So having this attitude is really necessary. You have to be ready for failure as well as success. Because
Right,
I feel
right,
like
right.
with students, you even with the idea of startup, it's always, oh, look at 50% of the startups are now booming and they're being
Yes,
successful.
yes,
They
yes,
don't
yes.
see the other 50% that is not successful. I'm sure
Right, right.
in that gap, people who often think ki, because the other 50% are successful, our idea is not as good enough. I'm
Yes,
sure
yes, yes,
the struggle behind is not highlighted enough.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
you said that
Because
you've been working for 8
I,
years. No one would
I
tell that.
right, right. Today I realized since last 6 years, my journey is same like ECG graph, like up and down and up and down. But that is something which is adventurous in my own life. And the initial 8 years were like a straight line. I don't know whether I was live or whether a dead body like that. So that is something where startup journey is same like an ECG graph.
Well, what do you think are the ups and downs of having a startup, having your own startup? What do you think?
Downs are, every day you face like you are not good in sales, you are struggling with your own funds, you're not getting good employees. These are some of the pointers where you consider you are the perfect example of a bad leader, where you are a perfect example of a failed businessman. Okay.
Right.
And ups are something like when one of your customer praises your product, when one of your customer appreciate your service, appreciate your product. That is something, these are the moments where you
The
have
up
that
and
dopamine
down.
level up, right? So this is happening, every day and every month. This is the story every day.
So you said that as a bad leader, you might often think you're not having good sales. In the initial years of startup, how did the sales and the whole marketing thing happen for your startup? How did you do that?
The asset which I had, more than a funding, more than idea, or more than my own team, the asset which I had at initial level was my network. In initial 8 years, what I actually earned was the network, which you probably can see on my LinkedIn profile. I could, gauge, I could build this network with some of India's top notch entrepreneurs and startup founders, even the industry experts. So these are some of the people. Uh, See, at initial level, you have your product. It needs to be into that experimental phase, a try and fail model. So these all network I have utilized as my initial, customers. So that is something, I spoke with them. Whatever product I have, whatever services I have, I spoke with them, and that is something which they, often gave me some of the sales through a referral basis, right?
Right.
So that is something which is an advantage of network, because right now at this very moment I know, which I even can advise you all, is network is net worth, and that is something which I'm experiencing even today.
So for a good startup, for a good successful startup, along with networking, are there any other factors or things that you'd consider in?
Yes, yes, yes. Because here I see, because your institution is completely into information technology, so I understand you guys are, absolutely have that excellence in computer science and, softwares and applications and entire part of information technology. But when you as a startup founder, you start some any kind of business or a startup, make sure along with this network you should have a wise understanding and knowledge of finance, and that is something where we are, lagging behind. You guys
Right.
are good in technology, but unless and until you understand finance, that is the core of any business. We have, a negligence for finance. Make sure along with network you should have understanding of basic finance as well.
That's great. Actually, that is a good advice because when you think whatever business or whatever you're starting, at the end you're doing it for money, right? So
Yes, yes,
considering that as an important factor is indeed very necessary.
yes, 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 yes.
My next question to you is, how has the pandemic affected your business? You said initially that pandemic
Mm.
did give you a good jump start along with being a problem.
See, when we were into the March 2020, that was the time recently, in 2019 only, 1 year back, we started with Startup Accelerator. All our services for startups and incubation services we started, and we were doing fantastic. And March 2020 came and we had that lockdown, and then that was something where, all your offline operations, all your offline services, you had to shut down. And the worst part was uncertainty. पता नहीं है 1 महीने बाद चालू होने वाला है, 6 महीने बाद चालू होने वाला है. How will you manage your funds? How will you manage your team? You're that, you completely switched to that work from home model, which was, initially 2 to 3 months was absolutely non-productive. And that was the time where at initial level it was like all it was a depression for us. It was creating a negative impact for us along with our team. But that was the time where we, actually started studying technology. Being a pharma profession, I'm not good in technology. I know what market needs. I know how to sell a product. But if you ask me technology, your programming and, that Angular JS and C++, I have no clue. Right. Then I started studying this technology and then thought like, how this technology can be integrated for all our offline services. And that is where we started building our own product, our second startup. The name of that startup is Siri. So Siri is basically our, startup which we started during pandemic. I'm very proud to share that within just 18 months we could build this particular startup, and then we started all these. We actually launched this in 18 months, and that's the reason for our Siri, which is a technology platform for our skill development and hiring platform. We could get these national award from government of India and embassy of Croatia for our series startup. So if you ask me today in 2022, pandemic was absolutely productive for us. अगर pandemic नहीं रहता तो मेरा आज एक ही startup रहता. Because of pandemic now I have 4 startups. So thanks to the pandemic.
That is actually such a great success because whenever you hear of pandemic, most of the times you listen, oh, the business went down, the market went down,
Right,
and even in all of that, you managed to have your own 4 startups that are all
right,
pretty successful on their own right now. That is really
right,
great.
right,
Uh,
right.
my next question is in relation with pandemic. So you said that your startup was very successful. But because your startup was successful, did you notice anything like were there any tangible changes in the market in the post-pandemic world? Were there any
Yes,
changes? Did
yes,
you
yes, yes,
could
yes.
you tell us more?
Yeah, yeah. Because the most important part for any startup is basically adoption, right? Because the kind of technology which you are building, the users, they may adopt immediately or they may not adopt. It is not in your hand. If you see, India is the wisest market for customer adoption. People from India, they adopt on new things immediately, while in US, while in Western countries, they will not adopt you quickly, right? So that is something where we have seen that shift for customer acquisition, as well as adoption for the new technology. So whatever we were building, we were ensuring that it is as per the need, as per the expectation of the user. It is not like 18 months ne हमने एक product किया है, and we are assuming that this is something which people are looking for, and then directly you dump in the market your product, and then the people will be, like, this is something which we are not looking for. This we have avoided. That we call as a MVP, minimum viable product. So whatever I learned during my first startup, I actually implemented all my learnings for my second startup. So that is something where I see the results today.
So learning from your mistakes and then reinforcing them into a new startup. That is very
Yes,
good.
yes, yes. Even
I'm
today,
sure
I remember my first boss. He used to always tell me, always do new mistakes, and I'm following my boss even today.
that is such a good advice. My next question is, how do you define success as an entrepreneur?
Now, see, if now this question is very tricky. If you ask this question to a series of entrepreneurs, their perception is completely different. For few members, success would be, to make your startup a unicorn startup. That is something, a definition for their success. But for me, success is something where I consider whether I have balanced my health and wealth, whether I have balanced my business and my family. If I'm balancing this, then I'm really happy. That is my definition of being a successful businessman. Because at the end of the day, for any person, what matters a lot is happiness. So what is your edge quotient? If you are actually balancing your health and wealth, family and business, then you are the most happiest person on this entire planet, which I consider as a definition of success for me.
Do you think you're successful right now?
Partially, because I'm too weak in balancing my family and business. I could balance my health and wealth, but I'm learning to balance my family and business.
Are there any complaints from either side? Not giving you
Almost
time?
almost every day.
It's okay. Learning from our mistakes. We'll
Yes,
learn.
yes, yes. I'm doing new mistakes every day, even today.
My next question is, if you would like to have a startup, say the startup is going to be successful for sure, which business or which field would you think is you'd invest in or be interested in?
You mean sector?
Yeah, sector or any field. Maybe say you think pharmacy is going to boom a lot, so you'll try to think of a startup in that field. Is there any particular field you see booming right now that you would be interested in either investing or having a startup in?
Into food
Food industry.
technology. food
Could you
food
tell
and
us why?
technology. Yes, yes. Because you see, even there are few startups which we are incubated, and where in one of the startup which where I have invested. And food technology is something, that is something where if you could build a fantastic ready to eat kind of, food for the people, and that too with, the kind of taste and flavor and the kind of health benefits, or even in that case organic food or something like that, that is something which is changing the lifestyles of the people. So
Right.
that is something where you are, for a noble cause, you are doing a business, right? So what we call like, swarth and parmarth, you are actually satisfying both when you are into
Right.
that food technology, food startups.
And the market is pretty big. Everyone needs food.
Yes, yes, yes. Market is pretty big. Even the export market for food is really good, really good.
That's right. So that would be the number one business you'd invest in. Are you sure? That's nice.
Yes, 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 definitely.
What is
What is
what is
what
your
is your
best piece of advice that you ever received from anyone?
from my mentors?
From anyone that you think is the best piece of advice?
Okay, that I have received.
Yes, you've received.
Okay, one advice I have received from one of my mentor from Mumbai, and he was like, 30% of your funds should be in buffer. Say, for example, if you're starting a business and now you have, say, like 1 lakh rupees, don't spend entire amount in whatever things you're doing. Make sure you're keeping aside 30% of these funds and utilize this as a working capital, which I am following since last many years, which is one of the fantastic advice which I have received to survive right now or even after COVID.
So that's your success mantra now.
Yes, 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 yes.
And one piece of advice that you would like to give to the students.
Yeah, sure, sure. That's something which, we had spoke around, like start early and fail early. See, whatever thing you do, maybe you're into IT, but maybe your interest is into gaming, maybe your interest is into stock market, maybe your interest is into, anything. If you like something, make sure you're exposed to the entire world, right? And that's the reason, start early, fail early, so that you can learn from the experiences. That's it.
That's right. Who's been your inspiration through the whole startup journey?
See, in early life, my inspiration, because my name is Sachin, my, The only inspiration was Sachin Tendulkar. But if you ask me, in entire journey of a startup, even today, the people like Elon Musk and all other startup founders are there as an inspiration. But today, I admire the most is Mr. Ratan Tata sir. So that is something where he's the perfect blend, where is the perfect example, for any entrepreneur. So that is something which my all-time favorite idol for my entire entrepreneurship journey.
He is a really great man. I've read stories and the whole book about it. He is really cool.
Yes, 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 yes. And to
Okay.
special mention, one more idol is Sudha Murthy ji, who the kind of work she had done, uh, absolutely in education sector, absolutely in being an Infosys Foundation, that is something which is really commendable. So she is the one who inspires many.
Okay. So I've heard that you also are an avid public speaker. How do you think you have? So I'm sure everyone has the stage fright and speaking in front of so many people. How did you ever have that? Being nervous.
I remember I remember my first presentation during my job in Goa, and that presentation was in front of my 13 team members, 13 members. We all were in boardroom, and every week we had that, uh, every member have to deliver a presentation. That was a 30 minutes presentation, and in that particular week, it was my turn. And I was recently joined that company like 1 month, 2 months before. We were in boardroom. We were, it was completely chilled and that boardroom because of that air conditioner. And the moment I started presentation, I started shivering, and my entire body was, like I was in some a stuff like you will fail, you will fall like anything. The moment I started presentation, it took around 2 to 3 minutes, and I done like I cannot go ahead. So that was my first experience as a presenter. First experience when you deliver your PowerPoint presentation. I still remember. The moment I have seen, or the moment I experienced that, that was something where uh, you experience that negative vibes for yourself, and then I started working on that. So that was first I had the experience. Recently, I was one of the speaker for the prestigious IIM Sambalpur, where speaking around the IIM students and having a conversation with them was really fascinating. So in that this entire journey as a public speaker, I could see like more than some 500 sessions I had delivered, more than 100 plus webinars during this pandemic I had delivered. And I fortunately see like even that experience I have learned from that my worst experience.
Growing with it.
Yes, yes.
So if you could choose between entrepreneur or public speaker, which one would you choose?
Very difficult question for me to answer. Public speaker, because
Public speaker.
that is something you directly connect with the people.
So has
If your question was like which one you enjoy the most, entrepreneur or public speaker, my definite answer would be public speaker.
so as a public speaker, I'm sure being a public speaker must have helped you with networking with people and marketing with people along.
Yes, 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 yes. 100%. 100%. But
Um,
like, like not like you guys, I'm too weak on Instagram. I'm not, have that expertise like you guys on Instagram. But I know how to create a network, solid network on LinkedIn. And that is something which I follow. That's the
well,
reason for especially only for the students I have created a page on Instagram. So certainly I'm learning to have those reels kind of thing and everything. Slowly I'm learning.
connecting to both generations together.
Right, right, right.
Is there any your favorite inspirational book that you like to read or believe in?
Yes, there are many, but one of the book which I want to mention here is The Code of Extraordinary Mind. The Code of Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani, and that is something which I have read twice, and I could you know uh, feel that whatever content he has written in that book, that is something which you can actually implement in your own life. That is not like he have cleared all those rocket science and everything, all blah 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 spirituality and everything, but the kind of spirituality which he have even mentioned, the kind of implementation techniques which he have mentioned in that book, that is something which you can really follow in your own life.
That's correct. You also mentioned that you have a lot of Japanese influence initially. Are there, how exactly did that come in your life? How do you feel about that?
Yes. uh, There is one book I hope like most of you may have read that particular book as well, Ikigai, Ikigai, and that is something which, see, you as a human, you have to follow whatever has been given in that particular Ikigai, so that at the end of the day you will be a happy human being. And that's the reason I appreciate the people who are around Japan, like the kind of culture they have, or the kind of education system what they have, the kind of technology they are building. So that is something where it is, for me, it is a source of inspiration.
That's great. Sir, can you tell us what your stress buster is like? I'm sure having your own startup, it's a 24/7 job. How do you de-stress yourself?
Whenever I come back every day and I spend time with my kids, so that is something where I keep myself completely free from all those stress pointers and get completely engaged with my kids. So my kids are actually my stress busters forever.
That's great, sir. Uh,
Sometimes these are those innocent faces which are actually the factors for stress, but we manage.
we live through it.
Right.
Sir, what would you like to give, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self? What message would you like to give to your 18-year-old self? 18, 20-year-old? Because
Why?
all of us students are in that
Right, right,
age
right.
gap.
Right. If I rewind myself and my entire journey in early life, I would ask past things like, why you were absolutely clueless. What exactly stopped you thinking like these are some of the options which you can choose? Why you were so dependent on your family decisions? Why you as an individual cannot take a decision for your own life? So that is something which I will ask if you rewind my entire life
Like,
sitting into that time machine. And my advice would be to all the students would be like same. Make sure you decide your own career considering all the trends which are happening in and around the world.
keeping all the options open always.
Exactly.
That's great, sir. Now I would like to end the session here. Are there any questions from the audience side? If anyone has any questions, please do.
Dear students, in case if you guys have any kind of questions or confusions or anything, feel free to ask me. Certainly, I would, look forward. Recently had started one more office at BKC, and in case if it is happened that I'll be there at Mumbai, I'll definitely visit your campus too. It would be, really great, and have that excitement to meet you in person. So maybe I'll, try to be there at campus as well.
Sir, we would really appreciate you having an offline seminar here as well. I'm sure having an offline seminar would help connect all the students better.
Sure, definitely.
Um, so if there are no further questions, can I end the session with the vote of thanks now? Preetham, could you please respond?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I hope each and every one of us has enjoyed the session and had a great time being a part of this show. Uh, it gives me immense pleasure to now deliver the vote of thanks. A big thank you to Mr. Kumbhoje, to our who had honored this event with his inspirational thoughts. A
Thank you
hearty,
so much. Thank you so much.
a hearty thanks to our beloved principal, Dr. Rohini Kelkar, for her valuable guidance and support in organizing this event. We've been fortunate enough to be backed by continuous support and guidance from our vice principals, Mr. Asif Rampurawala sir and Mr. Vijay Gowde sir, our CAOs, Dr. N. Lakshmi Kavita ma'am and Dr. Sarika Chauhan ma'am. I would also like to thank our E-Cell conveners for arranging this event and for their support throughout. Also, our E-Cell members, without whom this event would not have been as much of a success as it is now. Lastly, I extend my appreciation to our lovely audience. A big thank you to one and all present here. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, sir.